like this. So Percy Jackson is really based, as we know, on Greek heroes, but it's also based in that type of writing. So the hero has a quest, and it goes on he or she goes on a journey. To really understand the structure of Percy Jackson, we need to understand that. So this lesson is drawing hugely on the Unbound curriculum for that one, and we're going to look at our vocabulary, of course, at the start. So we have embark and uneventful. So these are the words that I had selected that we would go through. So we have 3 acts in a hero's journey: separation, initiation, transformation, and the return. So we're going to keep this text, so the children will have a handout on this and they're going to go through, but they will keep this text the whole time because it's like a reference text for us. We'll keep on touching back to it and pinpointing to it. But we're going to be a number of chapters in, so we have 4 chapters read right now, and we're going to look at that and see where do we feel this chapter is on this sequence of events. So as I said, each child will have a copy of this and we'll keep on returning to it. And our comprehension goal that we're looking at here is, can we determine the main idea? And then a more sophisticated goal, can we link it to Percy Jackson? So we go through these texts, and to help frame their thinking, I have a carousel then that we're going to set up. So carousel is these quotes will be placed around the classroom, and the children have groups that they work in all the time. So these groups are collaborative groups, they're mixed ability, they are not just based on where they're sitting, because they're sitting strategically in terms of they are able to turn into groups. And I want the groups to be formed this way. So they'll go around and they'll visit each carousel. They will have their document that goes through the hero's journey, and they will use it to determine where does that show, and then they'll bring that back to write a constructor response. So last week I had a number of questions about what a constructor response is. These, I suppose, are very, very popular in secondary school, but they're something that our own curriculum says that we should be doing. So rather than single sentence answers, we're looking at constructing a paragraph where it's formed in you answer the question, you explain that answer, you provide evidence that supports that answer, and then you conclude it. So you can see why it's called a constructed response, because it is really, really well organized. And that constructed response can be in the form of teal, which is what our secondary schools use. So we use it. We used race when I was in America. I liked that one as well. It doesn't necessarily matter which, because they're all acronyms for the same thing. But in terms of consistency, it does matter through the primary school that they're using the same one. And of course, if you can, and I know not everybody can, because in many schools your children are going to lots of different schools and you don't necessarily know. But if there is that link between primary and secondary school, it does help to know what they're using. The reason why we do all of this activity before they go to write is because that's the rehearsal. That's giving them the information. And think about cognitive load theory. We don't want the student to be thinking and trying to write it at the same time, because that's a journey of discovery. If it's going to be a constructive response, we need to know what our answer is going to be and then write it. The reason why we're doing longer writes as well is this is shown to have a huge return in comprehension. Why? Because it makes you stop and think about this chapter more, and particularly think about it in terms of what's a hero's journey. Our last lesson then for this week on Percy Jackson, and we are going to be looking again back to the hero's journey. So you can see the way this one is tracking right across and linking the 2 texts, linking Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and looking at where Percy is on this hero's journey. And as I said, that keeps on helping us understand the structure of the novel, and it helps us make predictions and see the links between the myths and legends and the novel. And that's something that we know Rick Riordan wants us to do. So we've got a vocabulary, and as the centaur, it's just really important to this novel. Wouldn't be one, and architect coming back up because it's so important. So we're starting with some turn chats, because I always want to integrate the oral language within the lesson rather than having them as separate lessons. So they're looking at the Greeks are gods for many important forces, the sea, thunderstorms. Why do you think that they came up with many different gods instead of having one? And we have our text here. So I like to just take little bits from the text so that we have really close reading. Again, the idea is the close reading is not about saying, okay, read back over this section and think. If you want them to think and be able to reread, then you need to narrow that down. So we're looking at how is the meaning of the archetype connected to the idea of the Minotaur here. And then we are going to model that one together so they have the opportunity to do it collaboratively. I do, we do. So they got closer, and then they have this, sorry, that's as we got closer to the start of the text, and they have that much that they're reading back over. So remember, they have time to do this in class because they have read the text at home. So they are selecting one surprising sight and describing it in detail. And they have a quick write then, what does Percy learn about Chiron in this excerpt? And back again, always to the graphic organizer. So we're at the next stage, and they're filling in the graphic organizer there. So in this one, there's a little bit of direct instruction, but an awful lot of them working themselves. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get this video uploaded onto YouTube, and then you'll be able to go back to it again and again and again as you need it. And it might be in a more coherent format. I apologize. I am not a professional when it comes to the video editing or anything like that, but this might be the easiest way to get it done. Have a lovely week.